When a man suddenly pulls away, it's almost never random. It feels random. It feels unfair. It feels like the floor drops under your feet without warning. But the truth? A man rarely distances himself because of something you did. He distances because of something he felt, and sometimes the emotion he felt with you was bigger than anything he expected. This is where the story changes. Not because you were wrong, not because you were too much, not because you scared him off, but because your presence activated something in him he wasn't prepared to face. So let's go deeper. Here is the real psychology behind why he pulled away and what his silence is actually saying. When he pulls away out of nowhere, your mind starts filling in the blanks. You replay conversations. You analyze your tone. You inspect your messages, like you're searching for hidden clues. You question every moment you shared with him. But here's the secret. He'll never tell you. The pulling away usually starts the moment he realizes he feels something real. Men don't run because of lack of interest. They run because interest grows into emotion, and emotion grows into responsibility. And responsibility terrifies the kind of man who never learned how to hold what he truly wants. So when he pulls away, don't picture him losing interest. Picture him sitting alone, feeling something shift inside him, and panicking because he didn't expect someone like you to affect him this deeply. He felt the connection. He noticed the softness. He sensed the emotional pull. He recognized the depth between the two of you. And then, inside his chest, something tightened, not in a bad way, but in a way that said, if I keep going, this is going to matter. If I keep showing up, she'll see the real me. If I keep opening up, I could actually get hurt. That's what he ran from. Not you, not your presence, not your energy, not your worth. He ran from the version of himself he would have to confront if he let you get close. Because you weren't casual. You weren't background noise. You weren't another temporary escape. You were someone he would have to show up for. You were someone who would see the layers behind the mask. Someone who would notice when he shut down. Someone who would recognize when his walls were rising. Someone who could see when he was emotionally disappearing right in front of you. And here's the truth most women never hear. A man who pulls away is often more overwhelmed by how much he feels than by how little. He wasn't prepared for the way you affected him. He wasn't prepared for the way your presence quieted his ego and awakened his emotions. He wasn't prepared to feel the things he thought he outgrew, or the things he told himself he didn't need. You made him feel alive again, and aliveness is terrifying. For a man who spent years numbing himself, you touched something he buried: hope, desire, attachment, possibility. So he did what emotionally unprepared men do. He backed away so he wouldn't have to face himself. Because real connection requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires emotional courage. And emotional courage is something he never developed. Not because he's bad, but because no one ever taught him how to feel without fleeing. So when he pulls away, don't picture him forgetting you. Picture him feeling you more than he knows how to handle. Picture him lying awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince himself that he doesn't care as much as he actually does. Picture him scrolling your messages without replying, because responding would pull him deeper. Picture him replaying little pieces of you, your voice, your laugh, the way you made him feel seen, and telling himself he needs to get it together before he reaches out again. Picture him feeling the pressure of being a man who might actually be good enough. for the connection forming with you. Picture him struggling with the standards. Your energy naturally sets because you weren't chasing him. You weren't begging. You weren't overextending. You weren't twisting yourself to keep him comfortable. You were simply showing up authentically, warmly, steadily. And sometimes that's exactly what breaks a man. The steadiness he never learned, the softness he never received, the emotional depth he never believed he deserved. Men don't fear rejection the way women often think. Men fear disappointment. Men fear failing someone they care about. Men fear being seen as not enough. Men fear letting someone close enough to witness their flaws. You came too close to the parts of him he still hides. That's why it felt sudden. Because emotional fear isn't gradual, it's instant. One moment, he's leaning in. The next moment, his defenses slam shut, and you're left wondering, what changed? But nothing changed. He just hit a threshold where his emotions outgrew his emotional maturity. And instead of rising to the level of the connection, he retreated back to the level of the comfort he's used to. Pulling away is his unconscious way of saying, I feel something real, and I don't know how to handle it. I'm afraid of the responsibility that comes with caring about you. I don't want to hurt you, so I'll run before I get the chance. I don't know how to love deeply without losing myself. I want you, but wanting you scares me. And listen, none of that is your burden. You didn't trigger his retreat. You triggered his feelings. You didn't overwhelm him. Your presence confronted him with the truth he spent years avoiding. You weren't too much. He was simply too unprepared. You didn't do anything wrong. You were just the first person who made him want to do things right. And sometimes, that's exactly what scares a man into silence. He didn't pull away because the connection faded. He didn't pull away because you did something wrong. He pulled away because something inside him got activated, something he didn't expect, something he didn't prepare for, something he never learned how to handle. And the closer he got to you, the louder that inner noise became. Because real closeness doesn't just touch the heart, it touches the wounds buried underneath it. And he felt that. He felt it the moment you stopped being someone he talks to and became someone who could truly see him. That's the moment avoidant fear begins. Because emotional intimacy isn't gentle for someone who has never known safety. It feels like pressure. It feels like exposure. It feels like standing in a room with no armor. And he spent years building that armor. You didn't break it. You didn't push too hard. You didn't ask for too much. You simply showed up with honesty, with presence, with consistency, with the kind of energy that makes a guarded person realize how much they've never healed. And that's where the panic starts. When a man pulls away suddenly, it's rarely because he stopped caring. It's because he cares. And caring exposes parts of himself he's avoided his entire life. He starts asking himself questions he doesn't know how to answer. What if she expects more than I can give? What if I disappoint her? What if I'm not enough? What if I lose her? What if she sees the real me and leaves? These thoughts don't make him disappear out of cruelty. They make him disappear out of fear. Fear of letting someone close. Fear of losing control. Fear of feeling something he can't shut off. So he pulls back to regain balance. He pulls back to breathe. He pulls back because connection with you didn't feel casual anymore. It felt real. And real is where his wounds live. Maybe you didn't notice the exact moment it happened. Maybe it was the night he looked at you longer than usual. Maybe it was the conversation where he opened up more than he planned to. Maybe it was that quiet moment where your kindness hit him too deeply. Maybe it was the way you didn't demand or chase or force the connection. You just existed with your soft energy, your open presence, your steady heart. And that is what frightened him most. Because when someone is used to emotional distance, closeness feels like danger. When someone is used to abandonment, intimacy feels like a setup. When someone is used to protecting every part of themselves, being understood feels like exposure. So instead of leaning in, he steps back. Instead of communicating, he shuts down. Instead of saying, "This is getting deep and I'm scared," he chooses silence. It's not right. It's not fair. It's not what you deserve. But it's how emotionally avoidant men learn to survive. Not by connecting, but by withdrawing. And here's the piece most people miss. He's not pulling away from you. He's pulling away from the version of himself he doesn't know how to manage. When he's with you, he feels things he can't control. With you, his emotional walls weaken. With you, his patterns don't protect him anymore. And that's terrifying for someone who built their entire identity on never needing anyone. So he retreats back into the familiar, back into distance, back into silence, back into emotional self-protection. But here's what he doesn't expect. Distance doesn't calm the feelings. It amplifies them. The more he stays away, the more he notices the absence of what you brought. Your presence, your warmth, your softness, your emotional intelligence, your way of listening without judgment, your way of making conversations feel safe, your way of being both calm and strong. And suddenly, the silence doesn't feel peaceful to him. It feels loud. It feels heavy. It feels like a mistake. He doesn't want to admit yet, but you feel the shift first. Your intuition tells you something is off, something changed, something pulled back, even if you can't name it. And you start questioning yourself. Did I say something? Did I misread everything? Did he lose interest? Did I move too fast? Did I get too close? Did I scare him away? Let me be clear. No, you didn't. His reaction is about his wiring, not your worth. His withdrawal is about his fear, not your value. His silence is about his emotional capacity, not your desirability. You didn't break anything. You revealed something. You revealed the gap between what he craves and what he knows how to sustain. Because men like him don't pull away when it feels empty. They pull away when it feels real. And real is what you triggered. He wasn't ready for the version of himself your presence awakened. He wasn't ready for the closeness that felt honest, the connection that felt mutual, the emotional resonance that felt too intense to deny. But here's the twist. Avoidants don't pull away because the connection is wrong. They pull away because the connection is right. And right requires vulnerability. They never learned how to offer. It requires presence, consistency, openness, accountability, emotional honesty, commitment, things he wants, but doesn't know how to give, things he feels, but doesn't know how to express. So he defaults to the only survival pattern he trusts: distance, silence, withdrawal, avoidance. Not because you were too much, but because the way he feels you is too much for the unhealed parts of him. You didn't lose him. He lost his balance. He lost his emotional control. He lost the ability to pretend he doesn't care. He lost the comfort of his old patterns. The moment you came into his life, and pulling away is his attempt to regain that control. It's not rejection. It's retreat. It's fear in disguise. It's the mind saying, run, while the heart whispers, stay? It's the emotional tug of war between what he wants and what he's terrified to feel. And even though he steps back, the connection doesn't weaken. It grows stronger in the silence because what he's fighting is not you, it's himself. And deep inside him, even if he never says it out loud, he knows you're not the problem. You're the trigger for a healing he isn't ready for. Not yet. But withdrawal is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of the part where he starts realizing the cost of distance. And that realization comes sooner than you think. He didn't pull away because the connection faded. He didn't pull away because he suddenly stopped liking you. He didn't pull away because something was wrong with you. He pulled away because something woke up inside him that he wasn't ready to deal with. And that's the part no one tells you. When a man feels something real, something he can't play casual with, something he can't outrun, something he can't shut off, his nervous system reacts before his mind can explain it. Pulling away isn't always rejection. Sometimes it's panic, because deep emotion feels like danger to someone who's used to being in control. And with you, he wasn't in control anymore. Your presence did something to him. Your kindness disarmed him. Your consistency softened him. Your energy reached places in him he spent years keeping locked. And when a man isn't used to that, when he's used to surface level connections, surface level emotions, surface level expectations, real intimacy feels like too much. He starts asking himself questions that scare him. Why do I care this much? Why do I feel so vulnerable? What if she gets too close? What if I disappoint her? What if she sees parts of me I've never shown? What if she becomes someone I can't lose? And the moment those thoughts hit, he retreats, not because you're too much, but because the feeling is too much. Because closeness requires emotional capacity. And if he hasn't built that capacity, his instinct is to run. He steps back because the intensity threatens his old survival patterns. He steps back because you activated a version of him he hasn't met yet. He steps back because the part of him that wants you is fighting the part of him that fears being known. That push-pull you feel, that sudden shift in his tone, that strange emotional distance, it's not random. It's him trying to regulate emotions he doesn't understand. It's him trying to create space, to slow down what is hard is speeding up. It's him trying to protect himself from the possibility that you might actually matter. Because when a man sees you as a threat to his emotional defenses, he doesn't attack. He withdraws. He tries to feel safe again by pulling away from the very thing that felt safe in the first place. It makes no logical sense, but emotional fear rarely does. And here's the truth you need to hear. If he didn't feel deeply, he wouldn't have pulled away. If you were just another person, he wouldn't be overwhelmed. If the connection was shallow, he wouldn't need distance. Men don't retreat from women they feel nothing for. They retreat from the ones who make them feel everything at once. He's not disappearing. He's trying to breathe. He's not rejecting you. He's recalibrating. He's not losing interest. He's losing composure. This is the moment where his emotional maturity gets revealed. Some men rise. Some men return. Some men open up once the fear settles. And some men stay stuck in the cycle. They never learned how to break. But his pulling away isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of who he becomes next. And your job is not to chase the version of him that hides. Your job is to stay grounded in the version of yourself that doesn't collapse just because someone else panicked. You're not losing him. He's confronting himself. And that process is loud. messy and confusing, but it's not yours to fix. It's his bridge to cross, his shadow to face, his emotions to understand. The connection didn't scare him. His own feelings did. And now, he has to decide what to do with the intensity that you awakened. He pulls away, and you feel it instantly. Not because he said something, not because he did something, but because the energy shifted. You can always sense it before it becomes obvious. The slower replies, the shorter answers, the slight distancing. In his tone, his presence, and his effort, you feel him slipping before he even admits. He's overwhelmed, and you're left with a quiet ache. You can't explain, but here's the truth. Most people never talk about when a man pulls away, suddenly, sharply, without warning. The reason isn't random. It's not impulsive, and it's not because you did something wrong. It's because something inside him got activated, something he's been avoiding, denying, suppressing, and refusing to face. You didn't scare him. Your love didn't scare him. Your presence didn't scare him. But what all of those things woke up inside him, that's what shook him, because you didn't show him a version of himself he could ignore. You showed him the truth he's been running from. And truth is the one thing he's never been trained to sit with. So he does what he always does. When emotions get too real, he withdraws, not because he wants distance, but because he doesn't know what to do with closeness. He pulls back because connection is unfamiliar ground. He steps away because consistency is terrifying to someone who's never had it. He goes quiet because the intensity of what he feels is louder than anything he can admit. And you feel all of that, even without him saying a word. But here's the secret no one tells you. His distance is not him losing interest, it's him losing control. He didn't expect you'd affect him this much. He didn't expect your presence to linger in his thoughts long after the conversation ended. He didn't expect your absence to feel heavier than he could handle. He didn't expect that caring about you would feel like a threat to the emotional shell he's lived inside for years. You didn't push him away. His own feelings pulled him into panic because deep down, beneath the armor, beneath the defenses, beneath the calm exterior, he's terrified of choosing someone who can actually see him. He's terrified of being the one who disappoints you, hurts you, fails you. He's terrified that loving you means losing the parts of himself he's desperately trying to protect. Because love for him isn't just affection. Love is exposure, and exposure is his greatest fear. So he withdraws to feel safe, to feel in control, to stop the intensity before it gets too real. But here's what he doesn't understand. Pulling away doesn't protect him. It isolates him. It traps him in the emptiness he's spent his whole life pretending doesn't exist. And even when he's far, even when he's silent, even when he pretends, he doesn't care. He does. More than he lets on, more than he shows, more than he'll ever admit, until he feels safe enough to stop running. And that's the part that breaks your heart, the knowing that he feels something, but not enough courage to face it. But listen carefully. You are not here to pull him out of hiding. You are not here to prove you're worth staying for. You are not here to chase him into clarity. If he wants connection, he has to stand still enough to receive it, because your love shouldn't be something he runs from. It shouldn't feel like a threat or a test or a battlefield. It should be a place he chooses to walk toward with awareness, with willingness, with heart. But he can't do that as long as fear is steering his choices. What he doesn't realize is that fear never protects a man from losing love. Fear guarantees that he will. And that's exactly what's unfolding with him now. He steps back, thinking he's preventing pain. But all he's doing is creating the very loss he's afraid of. He thinks distance will make him feel safe. But distance only makes him feel the truth he's avoiding. You mattered more than he planned for. He cares more than he expected. And losing you is already hurting more than staying ever would have. But he doesn't know how to admit that. So he hides, retreats, protects his ego instead of his heart. But here's the quiet piece that no one sees. When a man pulls away, out of nowhere, it's never really out of nowhere. It's the moment his feelings collide with his fears, and fear wins until he grows enough to stop letting it. What he does next will tell you everything. Whether he returns with clarity instead of confusion, whether he shows up instead of withdrawing, whether he confronts instead of fleeing, whether he chooses the discomfort of vulnerability over the comfort of avoidance. And if he doesn't, then his withdrawal wasn't a test you failed. It was a truth he revealed, a truth about his readiness, his emotional maturity, his capacity for love, a truth that has nothing to do with you and everything to do with the parts of himself he still refuses to face. But here's what matters most. You don't lose value because he lost courage. You don't become too much because he wasn't enough. His distance doesn't diminish your worth. His silence doesn't rewrite your story. His confusion doesn't cancel your clarity. Your heart is not defined by someone who doesn't know what to do with it. And one day, maybe tomorrow, maybe months from now, he will feel the weight of what he stepped away from, not because you waited, not because you begged, but because reality will hit him in the quiet moments. The reality that your presence was the first connection that felt real, that your love was the first love that felt safe, that your energy was the first warmth he's missed in a long, long time. And when that hits him, you'll finally see the truth. He didn't pull away because you weren't worthy. He pulled away because the connection was too big for the version of himself he's still clinging to. But you're growing, you're healing, you're moving forward with more clarity than he's ever had. And that's why you're the one who will come out of this stronger, not because he stayed, but because you didn't let his fear shrink your value. This is the moment you remember. You are not responsible for teaching someone how to love you. They either rise or they lose their place in your life. And losing you will teach him more than your presence ever could. When he pulls away, you feel it before he even says a word. Not because you're paranoid, not because you overthink, but because you're intuitive, attentive, emotionally awake. You feel energy shift before behavior changes. You notice silence before distance becomes visible. You sense hesitation before he even understands what he's doing. And here's the truth. No one teaches you. When a man pulls away suddenly, it's rarely about losing interest. It's about losing control over how deeply he's starting to care. Because caring requires him to show up, and showing up requires courage he wasn't taught to have. It asks him to communicate, to be consistent, to be emotionally available, without shutting down or disappearing. The moment things feel real, but emotional closeness isn't comfortable for him. It strips away the distance he used to survive. It breaks patterns he learned to depend on. It exposes the fears he's been hiding behind confidence. And you accidentally touched all of them. Not because you tried, not because you pressured him, but because your presence made him feel something He wasn't prepared to feel. You made him vulnerable. You made him honest. You made him soften. And softness, to him, feels like danger. So he pulls away. In the only way he knows how. Through silence. Through avoidance. Through pretending nothing is wrong. When everything inside him is screaming that something is happening, he can't manage. But here's the part. You must understand deeply. His silence is not your invitation to chase. His distance is not your cue to overperform. His confusion is not your responsibility to fix. You are not the healer of wounds he refuses to face. You are not the bridge he burns every time he panics. You are not the anchor he suddenly remembers, only when he feels himself drifting. Your job is not to convince him to stay. Your job is to stay aligned with who you are, even when he disconnects. Because the moment you stop overgiving, the moment you stop over-explaining, the moment you stop trying to cushion his emotional avoidance, something powerful happens. He feels the absence of your energy. He feels the loss of your consistency. He feels the shift in what he took for granted. And suddenly, he's the one replaying moments. He's the one overthinking. He's the one wondering why the silence feels heavier than the conversations ever did. This is how the dynamic changes. Not when you chase, not when you break apart, trying to decode him, not when you make yourself small, just to keep things peaceful, but when you stay calm, centered, grounded, aligned with your worth. Because the woman who doesn't scramble for answers becomes the woman who commands respect. The woman who stays rooted instead of reactive becomes the woman he can't forget. And the woman who understands that his silence is not her failure, but his fear becomes the woman he eventually comes back to with clarity. Not because you waited, not because you begged, not because you proved anything, but because distance has a way of revealing truth better than closeness ever could. So don't chase, don't overcorrect, don't collapse into panic just because he pulled away. Stand still, stay grounded, let him feel what life without your energy actually feels like. Because trust me, they always notice when your absence is quieter than their silence. And if you're still reading this, love, this part is just for you. You deserve the kind of love that doesn't disappear when it starts to feel real. You deserve the kind of connection that doesn't punish you for being open. You deserve the kind of man who doesn't run from his own feelings and leave you to interpret the ruins. If any part of you needed this reminder, take a breath, you're not alone. And if this message spoke to you, if it touched something honest in you, stay with me. Subscribe to this channel. There's more healing, more clarity, more strength waiting for you here.